Bloody hell, hello mate. How are ya? This is in the back of my head podcast, or now on YouTube. So is it a podcast? Is it a vlog? Who's to say? I've been thinking about doing this for a little while. I mean, I do the podcast every week, and so I'm sure most people who are listening to this will be on Spotify, not on YouTube. Maybe on YouTube is actually kind of pointless at this stage, and that's fine. That's cool. But I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of people do these kind of things, and I'm probably way too late to the fucking game. Swearing at the early starts of the video as well. I know that's a faux pas, but to hell with it. I want to do this. I've always wanted to do this, and I've tried a few times, but now we're going to try it once again. I have a new microphone coming as well. For the audio listeners, this might sound worse because I've moved away from my good microphone in the quote-unquote studio / second bedroom, and I've moved to this little handheld mic, and I think it will sound worse. I have a cavalier mic. Is that how you pronounce that? It's coming. It's coming. It was supposed to be here today, but it's not, and that's going to make things a hell of a lot easier with making these videos. So that will be updated. In the meantime, I'll have to hold this stupid little thing. It means I can't move around quite as much. It means I can do a little bit. That's kind of the point, though. I want to be able to walk around, talk with my hands a little bit, move things about. That's why I have this mic, this camera, there we go, on a stand, so I can move things around. Now, this video, I kind of wanted to talk mainly about me getting into actual frame. That's very important. Key part of this. It doesn't go high enough. That's absurd. Can we put you on a stool? Come with me on this journey. Excellent. I still have to crouch down. I'll start over here, and we'll change it up as we go. The reason I wanted to do this one, just even with the handheld mic, just to kind of get things started, is to talk about the fear of doing this. It's a weird fear. It's a weird fear of like, I think about this all the time. The different fears that people have. An example would be, I was talking about this with some mates last night, that the fear of like confrontation with authority scares the absolute crap out of me. But then throwing myself online or on stage is pretty second nature to me, which is interesting. Interesting that different people have, it's not that interesting, maybe. Maybe it's actually very obvious. I have quite a fear of doing video content like this. I like doing this for my stories, for Instagram stories. That's a lot of fun. Just talking into the mic, riffing on things as I go. That's great. For some reason, though, doing it for long form YouTube stuff feels so cringy. It feels so cringy. And I'm definitely prepared to be cringy in this, I think. I don't know if I have that strength in me at this point. It's obviously an insecurity. And I'm sure that everybody has that doing content or just in life in general. Making content, making stuff like this is obviously such a weird, sort of a pointless endeavor. There's no reason to do this. There's no reason to make this video. And there'll be no reason to make the future ones. Hopefully that I make future ones. But there's a desire to create, and I've talked about that plenty on the podcast, which I might upload those to YouTube as videos. Who's to say? That way everything's in one place. For the time being, you can listen to it all on Spotify. And I've talked about in the past, like that need to create, that desperate need to create. Not everyone has it, but if you are a creator, you know that there's that it hurts when you can't, when you don't have the chance to do it. Let's see if that's better. I'm just moving. I gotta change things around. I've got this. I got this. What is this called? A light for. It's more like a worker's light for painters, wall painters, painters of homes, painters of dwellings. I like making shit. I've talked about that. That's the point of this podcast. Or vlog. I don't know. I'm gonna keep calling it a podcast because it is the point to be a podcast, but Obviously, as a YouTube video, it feels a little bit different, but you can still throw it on, listening to my voice. The point of this podcast is to talk about creativity, talk about where my brain is at, which, as you can see from this, is all over the fucking place at the moment. Scattered as fuck. But to try and collect all that chaos and put it into one place, because there's a desperate need to create, and it is a need. It is a need. But then you are also terrified to actually put it out. Terrified that you are going to be cringy. That was the point of this particular video. No, this particular rant. The terror of being judged, obviously, but not being judged for like particular points. Like, I'm definitely terrified of that. I'm definitely terrified of putting out, especially like political thoughts, or certain philosophical thoughts, even though, everyone I know agrees with me. I'm in an echo chamber, as we all are. And I'm still kind of terrified of that. But then the biggest fear is definitely being cringy, being deemed silly, being deemed absurd. And not an absurd way as I'm in on the joke. Little jump cut here. This one's feeling much more difficult. Maybe it's because I can't hear my, what the fuck are you talking about? My phone told me that I'm listening to things at too high of a volume, which is absurd because I'm not listening to anything. Odd timing, because I was about to say that it's weird that I can't hear my voice in my headphones. So when I record just the podcast version of this, I can hear my voice really loudly in my headphones, and maybe that kind of tricks my brain into thinking, oh, it's radio time. No dead air. You must not have dead air. But recording just video at the table now feels absurd. This whole thing is going to... This is actually kind of where I think I go wrong when I'm thinking about being cringy. Because you're going to be. If you're making content online, be it a TikTok or a reel, or those are the same thing, really, or a YouTube video, or a podcast, or anything like that, just making the podcast by itself is cringy. It's cringe to certain people. And certain people I know listen to it and go, yeah, this is cool. This is great. This is exactly what I need. And I think about the wrong people. I have particular people in my brain, friends even, that I know watching this will go like, oh God, what, he's doing this now? God, I can't watch it. I know there's a lot of people that will not watch this, of my mates. And then I wonder though, what is the difference between this and just sitting across from me having a beer? That's the goal of these, is to actually just kind of do that. Is just, I want this to just feel quite conversational, that we're just hanging out at the pub. And I'm talking about creativity. It's one-sided, completely one-sided, so you can't respond. That's ideal. So I got to try and reframe the audience, the perceived audience, of which there is none real. There's no real audience here. This is a vacuum at the moment. I'm sure it will be forever, of course, because everyone makes YouTube content, everyone makes TikToks, everyone makes whatever. The podcast gets fuck all listens, and that's fine as well. So it's a weird fear that it's a perceived audience. There's only a few people that listen, and the ones that do come back are all mates of mine, and I know that they listen to this stuff and go, yeah, it's cool, it makes sense. I like this. I like listening to this. And yet, why am I so fucking terrified then of being deemed cringe? I'm looking for another word. I'm trawling through my brain to try and find the other word that I want to put here. There's obviously a certain vulnerability that you have to get past to make anything. And I guess when you're doing something like this, maybe it's because I can see my face. I don't like that. But I also need to see what the shot looks like while I'm recording. I'll get over it. Much like listening to my own voice in my headphones makes me feel like, yeah, cool, now it's time to record. That's podcast time, baby. And now this is going to be a video cast, baby. You have to become vulnerable to make anything, be it, music, or a podcast, or reels, or YouTube video, or a poem, or art, or anything. You have to be a certain level of vulnerable to do so. And I guess it's just getting comfortable within those spaces. But I guess it really does. It is worth looking at, like, how many elements of you are you putting yourself out there? How much of you are you putting out there? I think about this when doing, like, if I'm doing my solo music versus when I'm playing bass in a band. That is a very different experience, because if I'm playing bass, then I am one element of a bigger picture. And if I ever listen to a part and I go, that wasn't great, that bass part wasn't great, I can still listen to everything else in that song that wasn't me and go, ooh, but that's all really good. So I'm sure the bass part's fine. I'm sure it's doing its job, which it is. Also, because maybe I'm a better bass player than I am solo producer and rapper. I'm not sure if that's true, but I don't know. I can listen to that kind of stuff, and I don't cringe at myself. But listening to my music, my own solo music, I do cringe at times, at a lot of times. Maybe because it's my voice. That's a big one, obviously. Putting out your own voice and listening back to your own voice. A lot of people fucking struggle with that. But also, I think it's just because it's all me. It's the production is me, the writing is me, the vocal performance is me, and then the mixing and mastering is me, the art is me. It's all me. And so now it's all out there. And there's one thing that I don't need to think about when I'm doing it, except when I'm on stage. But when you're on stage, there's that immediacy. There's that, because you can't stop. You don't have time to think about it, which is why I like performing on stage, I think, is because you don't have time. This brain shuts the fuck up for a second. You don't have time to think about, oh God, am I being cringy? But then with this, now, it is my voice. In fact, it is even my music playing in the background, very, very softly. I assume I'm going to put that in. But it's also my face now, putting my face out there. That's terrifying. That's another element. It's another element to put out there and worry about. And people are going to see this, and if they deem it cringy, is the content cringy or am I cringy? Is the content cringy or am I cringy? And doesn't matter. You're allowed to be cringy. I really admire that in I would say, like, comedians and stuff like that. People who like, that's their job. Their job is to put themselves out there and know that they are. I mean, obviously they're going to get laughed at. That's their job, but hopefully they're being laughed with. But you have to enter that arena knowing that I'm going to make a fool of myself. And how do you mentally prepare to make a fool of yourself? Some people maybe are born with it. They don't struggle with it nearly as much. Others, like myself, God, this is such a cumbersome fucking setup. Cavalier mic's gonna make this a hell of a lot easier. I'm looking forward to that. I also want to keep changing locations, kind of to test them all out in this one video. There you go. Here's another spot. So many spots, so many sets. The worry here, though, is actually that I can now see cars. People can see me up here recording this right now, and that's also terrifying. Why is that more terrifying than putting this out on YouTube? Because I don't know these fucking people. Hopefully they can't see me. Hopefully they're only seeing a reflection on the window anyway. How do you mentally prepare yourself to be laughed at, to act a fool, to be deemed as a fool? That's sort of maybe what I've done my entire life as a performer. But then something like this, or something like comedy, is a whole new level of potential embarrassment. I haven't talked about that yet. I'm doing a comedy set, in fact, coming up, which is, well, no, I'm booked for a comedy set. I haven't got material, but it's called Funny for a Poet, part of the night that we run, Funny for Blank, as Vibe Union here in Melbs. And so, Funny for a Poet, I run a poetry night. I better bloody get my butt up there. It seems only fitting. and I'm fucking terrified. Oh my god, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be real rough. Yeah, I have to write material and then present it, and so it's my first time on stage as a comic, which is something that I didn't really ever think that I'd be doing. That's not entirely true. It was actually my first ever kind of dream was to be a comic, when I was a wee lad. But that was when I was like fucking 10 years old, maybe a little bit older, like 12 or so. And since then, not so much. I think it's that fear. It's that fear of being the fool. A fear of fucking up, which I don't find in other places like music and what have you. But doing this and comedy is two worlds. But then I guess it's just getting used to it. I guess it's just putting yourself out there in a new way is always going to be the most terrifying thing. And so you just got to get used to it, right? Right? Dip your toes in. As with all things, I guess it's just about making sure that you enjoy the work side of it. You enjoy the actual creation side of it. And so for this, I'm really excited to do the editing. Funnily enough, I hate editing, but I've been doing I've been editing little snippets from the podcast, the Vibe Union podcast that we do, and editing those things down. And that actually kind of got me excited. I was like, yeah, I don't really like video editing, but this style of video editing might be a bit more just butchery, brutalist, and that'll be kind of fun. And then I will try and get better at it and try and add more and more to it. Yeah, I'm excited to make a video. And so I want to rely on that. Even though I'm feeling very nervous about putting myself in camera and being really cringy, potentially. Especially if I start to make like more jokes and stuff like that. If I start to become more of a YouTuber, that'll be fucking terrifying. And then how will I deal with that? How will I deal with watching myself back and going, oh God, not into that at all. But I want to enjoy just making the video, the process of making the video. Enjoy that. Enjoy the content. Enjoy talking into camera. I'm going to try and rely on that. The fear of being cringe. I'm going to leave it there now. Because that sun's also coming onto my face, and I will. I'm just a hot boy. I'm steaming. In more ways than one right now. Very toast. Very, very, very dusty. From drinking. Anyway. That's in the back of my head podcast episode. Can't remember. I want to say 38 at this point. I can't remember. This one I feel like is definitely very loose because I'm to camera. And for most people listening, I assume, still on Spotify, should be no difference. I'm sorry if the audio is not as good. But yeah, definitely my brain is very scattered because I'm thinking about multiple things at the same time. I'll try and edit it down. And if it's terrible, you might not even see this because I might just scrap the whole thing and record a normal one. We'll see. I think the Cavalier mic's going to change everything. Also, comment if I'm saying that wrong. All right. I love you very much. I'll see you very soon. All right, bye, mate.